Okay, Dan's Kitchen class. Let's talk about what we are going to learn about today. We are going to learn about measuring cups. We're going to talk about how we measure. We're going to talk about measuring cups, dry measuring cups, liquid measuring cups, and we're going to talk about teaspoons. Nice catch, Dan. First, let's talk about measuring cups. Measuring cups. Why do we use them? Do we have dry and do we have liquid? Let's talk about the dry measuring cups we have. We have a half cup. We have a full cup, 1 cup. And we have the smaller one, the 1/4 cup. Let me show you 1/4. First, why do we use dry and liquid measuring cups? Obviously for the liquid, when we need to add liquid. But when we have dry, we have ingredients like sugar, flour. We have some of the big stuff like when we use ingredients to add flavor. We need to use some bigger measuring. So that's why we have our cups. Secondly, when we use our measuring cups, do we use a dry? Do we use a liquid? Well, when we have liquids, we need to use our liquid measuring cup. This is the liquid measuring cup. It'll have slots. It has slots that say 1 cup. It'll have slots that say 1/4. Sometimes when we're using stuff like water, that just because this will say 1/4 does not always mean for a liquid that it measures out to be exactly 1/4. That is why when the recipe says use a dry measuring cup, use a dry measuring cup. Use a liquid measuring cup, liquid measuring cup. So that's why we use the 2 of them. Let's talk about, secondly, and most important, let's talk about teaspoons and tablespoons. Teaspoons come in these weird little things, like they're always over the place. Why do I need to use these small things when I'm adding big flavors? That's important because when we use small little gadgets like this, they change how our food cooks when we put it in the oven, when we apply heat to it. We use these little teaspoons, these little tablespoons, when we need stuff that changes our food, that helps make our food delicious and helps it grow and helps it rise in the oven. That's why we use these little teaspoons and stuff. We use stuff for, like, what I got here, I got baking powder. Baking powder helps our food lift and graze. And also, fun thing I like, for vanilla, we need to add with our small little teaspoons. It's a 1/2 teaspoon right here. When we add vanilla, we can't put in a huge measuring cup. We add too much of that, it's gonna taste weird. So that is why when we need to add minute differences, small things to our recipes, we use our teaspoons. They usually are used for like little flavorings, stuff like when you need to add like frostings and like when you need to add like vanilla and stuff and chemical stuff like baking powder. That is why we use our teaspoons. Okay. Most importantly, when you are reading a recipe, when it asks for a tablespoon or a teaspoon, they're gonna be noted by one specific thing. And I'm gonna show you on my schedule here. It says there's a big T and a little t. So when you're looking at a recipe and it asks for a certain measurement, and let's just say it says 1 big T and then baking powder. But big T, does that mean I use a big spoon or do I use regular? So big T is used to call for a tablespoon. So if you look on here, when it says 1 TBSP, that stands for 1 tablespoon. This is why the big T calls for a tablespoon, the big T. Also, when you see something on that has a little t, I'm going to try and draw a little t with my hands there. Little t and a little cross. That's calling for a teaspoon. It'll say little t of vanilla, little t vanilla. So I'm gonna show you the little t on here. Oh, can I get it perfect? Little t. That's for a teaspoon. So if a recipe says 1 small t vanilla, we use our teaspoons. So to go over, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a quiz, even though you guys probably can't hear back and forth. So, little t, do we use a measuring cup or do we use a teaspoon when it says a little t? Little t! I don't know if you got it right or you got it wrong. Little t. If it asks for a cup of water, do we use a dry measuring cup or a liquid measuring cup for a cup of water? I'm going to say, oh, liquid measuring cup. When it asks for a cup of flour, do we use a teaspoon or do we use a dry measuring cup? We use a dry measuring cup. Great time having this with you guys. Please keep learning. Please keep having fun in the kitchen. Let's talk about the rules. Heads, learning about teaspoon. Hands, we're being washed. Hopefully we're washing them before the class. And last and most importantly, let's have some fun.